Hello once again. My name is Victor Manibo. I'm one of the lead attorneys here at Wang Law Office. And once again, you're watching our newest YouTube show, The AM Show.
Yes. Hi, I'm the host, Ariel. I'm also a senior paralegal in Wang Law Office. Our show going to start every Friday at 8 a.m.
And for those who are new, this show is all about your immigration questions. We encourage you to write in via our YouTube comments or our email address or via line and send us all your immigration-related questions. We have a lot of common questions from our clients, from people who watch this YouTube show, and we try to put them all together into one show that deals with one specific topic every week.
Yes. Victor, before we start the show, as usual, can you give us a little bit on your background?
Sure. For those who haven't met me yet, my name is Victor Manibo once again, and I am an attorney here at Wang Law Office. I've been with the firm for 10 years. I've been a lawyer since 2011, so it's been a while, and I do mostly immigration cases and some criminal cases in as much as it impacts someone's immigration status.
As I know that ICE issued a new memo on April 3rd this year, Victor, there are a lot of people asking if they are qualified to get this PD from the immigration court case recently. So what is PD?
Okay, this is a very interesting topic that we have this week because it just happened. This is something that happened literally last week, like Ariel said, like you said, only on April 3rd, there's a new memo. And this is from ICE. And this is how memos are how ICE usually announces new policies. And this new policy that ICE announced on April 3rd is about prosecutorial discretion, or what might be called PD, letter P, letter D. People might have heard about it before. People are thinking, okay, how can this help my case? So to answer your first question, what is prosecutorial discretion? Let's talk about those two words, prosecutorial and discretion, right? Prosecutorial means it's about the prosecutor. When we talk about the prosecutor in immigration cases, that means the ICE attorney. It's all about the ICE attorney. We're talking about the immigration agency that is trying to remove someone from the country. We're not talking about the immigration judge. So the ICE attorney, some people might think, oh, that's the enemy. That's
the government attorney.
Exactly. That's the government attorney. That's the one trying to get rid of, people who don't have status, or people who are not U.S. citizens, right? So this memo impacts them and how they act in immigration cases. The second word is discretion. What does discretion mean? Discretion is about someone's judgment, about someone's preferences, or about someone's authority or prerogative, what they can do with the powers that they have. Now, as you know, and some of our viewers might know, ICE attorney has a lot of power because they get to decide a lot of things that happen in immigration court. Sometimes those things are bad. Sometimes those things are good. Now, prosecutorial discretion, when we combine those two things, it's the authority of the ICE attorney in this case to decide how they will act in certain cases, where they will devote their energy, their resources, their attention. It's also, how they decide whether to implement the immigration law against someone, whether to continue to pursue a case or not, and how to pursue a case. So prosecutorial discretion, this memo that just came out, affects how these ICE attorneys make those kinds of decisions.
Yes, you guys should continue follow us on YouTube or any other channel. If there's any new thing come up, like this memo, we're going to post it.
Right, and with our YouTube shows, not just the AM show, but the A&J show and Miss Wang's own show, we try to let our viewers know the latest thing that is happening that is relevant to your life, not just immigration related, but current events. So keep watching all of our shows, definitely.
Yes. Then I get into a question. Who can use the power of PD?
So as I mentioned earlier, the first word of that is prosecutorial. So the prosecutor is the one who exercises PD. So the terminology is exercising it. So like kind of like they're the ones who have the power to exercise discretion, and their power is exercised in many different ways. Usually it's about, like I said, how to pursue cases and whether or not to pursue cases, how they act in, in court, how they act outside of court, whether or not they want to keep trying to remove someone. That is within their power that the ICE attorney has. Whether or not they will agree to do something for the benefit of the non-citizen is a power that they have.
So can anyone in the court get this PD?
Because we're talking about prosecutorial discretion, we're talking about immigration proceedings. And that's where the ICE attorney comes in, and the traditional role is to get someone removed from the country, right? So this whole conversation is about people in immigration proceedings who are at risk of being removed from the country, and an ICE attorney is involved there. So in theory, yeah, if you are in immigration proceedings, you might be able to get some sort of benefit or some sort of relief or some sort of advantage if your ICE attorney chooses to exercise prosecutorial discretion. Of course, not everyone is going to get it. Everyone is eligible, of course, but the likelihood of success is low or high depending on a lot of factors. If you are one of the priority cases of ICE, you might not get PD. And we can talk more about what's a priority case or not later on. But if you're not a priority case and there's a lot of good things in your background about your history, there's a higher chance that you might get PD.
Yes, of course, you need to find a good lawyer who can help you to talk to the ICE lawyer, ask for anything for you.
Right, because PD is about what the ICE attorney wants to do eventually. So you need someone who can communicate with that ICE attorney and see what the options are for your case. And it's hard to do that if you're doing it on your own, if you're representing yourself and you're not represented by a lawyer, because an ICE attorney is a lawyer, and they're more.
They got experience. They know what to do.
Exactly, they're more likely to respond to someone who's also a lawyer.
So we mentioned about this new memo. So what is the current guideline for the PD?
So yeah, before we get into this new policy, let's just talk about the memo and what it is. So it came out last week from the head of OPLA. That's the immigration agency it's a sub-agency within ICE that handles all the immigration, all the ICE attorneys are under that office. And it's called the Doyle Memorandum because it's written by someone named Carrie Doyle, and it will take effect on April 25th, 2022. I know we're talking about it now. It's not even April 25th yet, but it's good to be prepared because once it's in effect, that's when you can really start asking for things from your ICE attorney. But you need to have some time to prepare for that. You need to give your own attorney some time to prepare for that. Now, this new memo, it's available online. We can put a link on our YouTube video if you want to access it yourself.
Yes, and I heard that there is an old ICE memo on this PD already, maybe last year. What is that about?
In the last year or so since the new President Biden took office, there have been a lot of changes within ICE because Biden is a little more friendly to immigrants. So ICE, as a government agency that's directly under the president, he has instructed ICE attorneys to exercise prosecutorial discretion in a more lenient way, in a way that's more friendly to immigrants, to non-citizens, to people without status. So in the last year and a half, there have been a lot of other memos. So people, our viewers, maybe they've heard PD before, not just now that there's a new memo. There have been two memos since last year. One came out at the end of May and one came out at the end of September. And they're kind of similar as to the contents of this new memo, which we'll discuss more later. They're a little bit similar, but those are not the final memos. This one that came out last week is the final memo.
So why there is such new memo when there is old one already exists?
The old memos they're called interim memos. So they're very preliminary because ICE is still trying to figure out, how much resources they have and how much they can pursue cases, how many attorneys they have, and how hard or how easy they want to pursue certain cases. So, it was kind of like, think of it as like a trial run. Those other memos were like, okay, let's try this and then let's try this. So they did it twice. They had two memos that are kind of similar, and then they polished it up. And now this final memo is the one that just came out, and that's the one that's in effect.
In fact, since last year, May, we already have some clients already successful to get their case terminated or get status through that old memo. Of course, this new memo come out might have more people qualified. If you are listening to our show, you should just make a call to us to see if you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, because of those interim memos, we asked for PD for some of our clients. And like you said, you're right. They were successful under those earlier versions of the memo. This current version of the memo, I think, is a little bit more lenient. It's a little more friendly to people who don't have status, to non-citizens. So I honestly think there's going to be a lot more people who will qualify and might be able to get PD a lot quicker and easier under this new memo.
So what's going to be exactly different between these two memos? Can you compare them a little bit?
Yeah, so the old memos, they designate what the priority cases are for ICE. The cases that ICE attorneys will always pursue no matter what, and will not exercise prosecutorial discretion. And the old memos also specify the things that they have to consider in deciding whether or not to pursue a case or not pursue a case, or agree to some sort of status for a client or not agree. But this current memo is a little more specific about everything that all the factors that they have to think about. And most importantly, this new memo highly recommends that removal proceedings be dismissed, meaning they're telling ICE attorneys, if it's possible to get rid of an immigration case completely, like terminate it, dismiss it, they are told they should do that as much as possible. So that's a big deal, because a lot of people who are in immigration court, they're afraid to lose their case. They're afraid that the judge might not be convinced about their case and they might lose. But if the case is dismissed, then there's no more immigration court case. They can probably pursue other ways to get status through USCIS.
Yeah, if you listen to our today's show, you believe that your case might have a little bit chance to do this PD, better to come to consult. So how does this PD work?
PD works mostly when the ICE attorney decides, reviews a case and decides to exercise their power in doing certain things to the advantage of the non-citizen. Now, the new memo recommends that attorneys review their cases and really look for ways to dismiss a case if it's possible to dismiss a case. They're given, you have to look at the person's background, you have to look at the person's history. So a lot of the PD determination goes on in the head of the prosecutor. They have to think about this, right? But, our job as the attorneys for people who don't have status, for non-citizens, is to talk to that attorney and convince him and let him know what reasons there are for our client's case to be dismissed, or for our client to be given status, like give our client asylum, or agree to give our client a green card. It's our job to convince the ICE attorney of that, because honestly, the ICE attorney, they have a lot of cases.
They might not know your case, and then your lawyer is the one know your case. They can present the good evidence of your case to them.
Exactly. Your attorney is the one who knows your case the best. The ICE attorney is going to review the file, but if they have 100 files, they're not going to read it really closely. If you have an attorney talking to them for you, it's going to be a lot more effective to convince them to exercise their judgment and their discretion in your favor.
Yes. I want to know what kind of people can get the PD.
So earlier I was talking about priority and non-priority cases. This memo that came out specifies 3 types of priority cases. And those priority cases are generally cases where ICE will not exercise their prosecutorial discretion. Basically, they're saying if it's one of these three kinds of cases, it's too important. We're not going to dismiss it. We're going to pursue it in the same way that they've always been pursuing it, if not stricter, you know? But if you don't fall under these three categories, you're a non-priority case, you are gonna get PD. You have a very high chance of getting PD. Obviously, it's not just like asking for PD. You have to take certain steps that we can talk about later. But yeah, that's the difference. If you're a priority case, very low to no chance of getting PD. If you are non-priority, very high, like chance of getting some sort of favorable PD.
So you mentioned three kind of case, right? Can you give me more detail?
Yeah. So the priority cases are divided into three. The first one is if the case involves someone who is a national security threat. What do we mean by that? We usually mean those are people who have suspected ties to terrorism or terrorist activities. And those cases, as you might understand, they're very serious. ICE is not just going to let that go if someone is accused of being a terrorist or a threat to the United States government. So that's one. National security threats, no PD. Second, if you're a public safety threat, and that generally means if you have a serious criminal conviction. A couple of episodes ago, we talked about aggravated felonies. Those are really serious crimes involving, someone losing their life or liberty. Like if somebody is convicted of murder, if somebody is convicted of arson or rape or something serious like that, or a drug crime, you might fall under public safety threat. But like I mentioned before, not all crimes are the same. Not all jurisdictions are the same in terms of how they treat crimes. And the federal government treats different crimes differently. So if someone out there is listening and they want PD, but they're thinking, oh, I have a criminal conviction, maybe
Can I do it?
Oh, yeah. So I think the best way is to consult with an attorney because, it's not automatic. If you have a criminal history, it's not automatic that you're not going to get PD. But it's good to know that like public safety threats are like serious criminal convictions, and they're not highly likely, very less likely to get PD.
Yes, if the lawyer can deal with both immigration and criminal, they knows how to do your case.
Right, exactly. And the third category of priority cases are border security threats. So that means someone who has immigration violations, although this memo is very specific of what kind of border security threat they're talking about. They're talking about two types of border issues. One is if you were caught as you were entering illegally. So literally where you're crossing the border and then ICE arrests you. Yeah, that you're considered a border security threat, and you have a very low chance of getting PD. And the other border security threat that they talked about is if you're a recent entrant, if you entered the country illegally after November 1st, 2020, meaning, maybe you crossed the border illegally, right? And you weren't caught by ICE. You were able to cross without being detected and arrested, but you entered after November 1st, 2020, meaning you entered in the last, year and a half. You're not going to be able to get PD, or you have a lower chance of getting PD. So if you're one of these three categories, national security threat, public safety threat, and border security threat, very low chance of getting PD.
Yes, of course, if you belong to these three categories, you still can consult with us to see if there's other way to get status.
Right.
Maybe not PD, maybe other way.
Right. And even if, you're one of these three categories, there might be something in your case that, might change an ICE attorney's mind. Just, nothing is absolute. Like this is in this, show, in this field, like I always say, it depends, because it really does depend. It's good to have that knowledge, but nothing is like 100% yes or 100% no. Like you can have a criminal conviction, you might still get PD. Just know that the probability is probably going to be lower. But if you're unsure of anything, just talk to an attorney who knows what they're doing, and they can give you the more specific advice that really fits your case.
Yes. But I often heard the word PD. They got the PD for the immigration court case. Is that the same PD that we are mentioning today?
Yes. So if you've heard the term PD before, usually the common misconception of people is that PD is, you kind of get your case temporarily closed, or you get your case administratively closed, meaning the case is put on hold or put on pause. I think that's what a lot of people, at least our viewers and our clients, when they ask, that's what they think of. PD means administrative closure, temporarily closing a case, which we talked about, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, administrative closure, right? But that's not what PD is. That's only part of what PD is. Now, when I talked about earlier about PD, about the things that an ICE attorney can do, right? They can do a lot of things. They can choose whether to dismiss a case or not. They can choose whether to agree to status or relief for our clients, right? For a non-citizen, they might agree, okay, I will review your file. I think you're eligible for asylum. I'm going to agree that you should get asylum. They can do that. They can, if you lose your case, they can decide not to appeal the case to the BIA. That's something that they can do. They can, again, admin close is part of it. So they can choose let's temporarily close your case. Maybe this person can apply for an I-130, I-601A. They can agree to administratively close a case so that someone can pursue a status with USCIS. That's something they can do. They can agree to release someone from detention if someone is being detained in immigration custody during immigration court proceedings. That's something an ICE attorney can decide to do. So there are a lot of things that is under this PD, this term PD. There's a lot of decisions that an ICE attorney could do. It's not just administratively closure.
So you mean that we can ask them to do anything?
Right. You can ask to dismiss a case, get relief. You can ask to postpone a case, to move a case, to delay a case. You can ask to reopen a case. If you already have an order, you can ask to have a removal order reopened. You can ask to reopen a case so that you can apply for status later on. You can ask for them not to appeal, for bond, all of those things. That's all part of that. You can ask for it. It doesn't mean that you're always going to get it, but those are things that you can ask for. And it's your attorney's job and your job to convince the ICE attorney to give you what you ask for.
Actually, if the lawyer knows what to do, they can have so many choices, like us. We're going to help our client to choose whatever best to them.
Right, exactly. And every case is different. So the best solution for one case might differ from another case.
So how the ICE attorney, maybe OPA that you mentioned earlier, determine if it qualifies for the PD?
Right. So the first thing that they think about is this a priority case or not? Is this a national security threat, public safety threat, or border security threat? Now, a huge majority of cases are not going to be priority cases. A lot of the cases out there are non-priority cases. So if an ICE attorney determines it's a non-priority case, now they look into the case itself and the person involved. They look at, okay, what's going on in the case and what is the background of this person who's asking for PD? What is our client's background, basically? So they look at, how old is this person? Is this a very elderly person who's been here a long time or not? Is this a very young person who's a child who a minor? They think about that. They think about how long you've been in the country. They look at your family ties. If you have family in the United States, especially family with status, and especially family who will suffer hardship without you. If you have young children that you're taking care of, or elderly parents that you're taking care of. So there's more, and I'll talk about these some more, but when I talk about all of these factors, think about how, it might convince someone, it might convince an ICE attorney out of pity or out of like concern for because we're dealing with human beings, right? So when they're looking at these factors, when a nice attorney reviews a person, they have to think about this person's life. They have to think about, does this person have a job? What kind of job do they have, and how long have they had it? Do they have any medical conditions that would make it hard if we deport them? Do they have any mental conditions that would make it hard if we deport them? Do they have, what's their educational background? Are they in school? Obviously, like maybe a nice attorney would be hesitant to remove someone who is a child who's going through school right now in the US, have they been a victim of a crime while in the US? Have they been a witness in a case in the US? Have they served in the military? Obviously, if you served in the US military, that's something that a nice attorney would think, oh, this is a good person. Let's not try to remove him from the country. So those are like some of the good factors that people think about, right?
So what going to be the bad factor that is going to cause things, maybe stop me from the PD?
Right. So on the flip side is like, not every person is 100% good or bad. There's also like bad parts to somebody sometimes. So a nice attorney is going to think of like, okay, have they violated immigration laws before, and how? Like, so they think about, have they lied to immigration? Have they filed fake documents or provided fake information? Did they enter illegally? They look at how you entered and how long since it's been since you've entered. And one of the categories that can't get PD are people who entered illegally and was caught, or entered illegally like since November 2020, right? They think about criminal history. Like I said, not every crime is gonna disqualify you for PD, but even if you have a minor crime that's not super serious, they're still going to think about that and look at that and think, okay, is it better to continue this case or not? If they're looking at a particular criminal case, they're looking at how long ago was it? What was the crime? What was the punishment? Did the person go to prison or not? If the person went to prison, how long were they in prison? Things like that.
Yes. So you need a good lawyer to help you to present your case in a better way to the ICE to convince them from this PD.
Exactly, because the lawyer's job is to convince people. Like, that's what the lawyer does. You either convince the judge. Generally, you convince the judge, right? You convince the immigration judge, let my client stay in the country. Here in PD, the attorney is communicating with another attorney, the ICE attorney, and saying, hey, look at my client. He's a good person. He's not perfect, but there are more good things about this person than bad things. So please dismiss this case, or please give him asylum, or please, let's temporarily close this case. He has a family. He works hard. He has a family business. He has an elderly mom that has cancer that he has to take care of. Things like that. Like, there are so many aspects to a person's life, and your lawyer who knows your case and who knows you is going to be in the best position to convince a nice attorney of all your positive things, and maybe downplay the negative things about you.
Yeah, so better to consult to see if you can do it. But I want to know, for example, what kind of case I can do it if I lost the asylum and then but I didn't get the MTA yet. Can I apply for this PD?
Yeah. So usually for a lot of people, apply for asylum through the asylum office and you lose, you get sent to immigration court. And the immigration court case is started by filing of an NTA, a notice to appear. Now, the notice to appear starts the immigration court case, and it's filed by the ICE attorney. Now, so that means the ICE attorney has the power, the discretion, to not file an NTA, to not start a case at all, to not send someone to immigration court. So yeah, that's something that someone who is not priority case can ask for from an ICE attorney. Please, I know I lost my asylum, but don't send me to immigration court. I'll file for something else. That's definitely possible.
So what if I got an immigration court case is pending? Can I apply for this PD?
Yes. And like I said earlier, if you're in immigration court, you have a case pending, this is honestly what PD is going to be most useful for a lot of people in immigration court. If you have a non-priority case in immigration court, you can ask for PD, and the type of PD that you'll ask for will depend on what's going on in your case and what's best for you. It's not something that you might know off the top of your head because you're not a lawyer, but your lawyer will know that. Will know the best solution and strategy to ask from the ICE attorney to do something with your case. I mean, for me, generally, you want to dismiss the case. That's always the best. No immigration court case. But there might be other strategies.
Yeah, it depends on your case too. So better come to consult. What if, different situation, what if I can apply for adjustment of status, the I-485? Can I apply for this PD?
Yeah. If you are, let's say you're in immigration court and you're not applying for asylum, but you have family members who can petition for you, file the I-130, I-485, which we were talking about last month. You can ask the ICE attorney and say, hey, you know what? I want to file for an I-130, I-485 with USCIS. And, USCIS is in a different branch of government than immigration court, right? And generally, you can't apply for I-485 with USCIS if you have an immigration court case. So if you're in that situation, you might be able to get PD by asking the ICE attorney, hey, I can apply for I-485 with USCIS. Can we get rid of the immigration court case so I can go to USCIS? That's possible. If you're a non-priority case and you have like a lot of the good factors that I was talking about, yeah.
So what if I'm appealing to the BIA? Can I apply for this PD, ask them not to do anything, or?
So let's say you won the case in immigration court. The immigration judge said, okay, I'm going to give you asylum. When you win a case in immigration court, the other side can say, oh, judge, you were wrong. I'm going to appeal it. It's not us that has the only power to appeal. They have the power to appeal too. And one of the things that is part of prosecutorial discretion is an ICE attorney can decide not to appeal even when they lose. So let's say our client wins, and if this was under the Trump administration, they're probably going to appeal the case. But under PD, they're being told, okay, don't appeal the case, or try not to appeal the case if somebody has good factors in their history and is a non-priority case. If you have a pending appeal with the BIA, you can also approach the ICE attorney and say, hey, I know I lost the case, but maybe you can agree with me and we can dismiss this appeal and we can go back to immigration court to restart things all over again. Maybe you lost your asylum and now currently you're under appeal with the BIA. You can approach the ICE attorney and see if you can get rid of the BIA case and agree to just reopen it in immigration court. That's possible too.
Yeah. So what if my situation is I already have a final order of removal? Right. Can I apply for PD to reopen the case?
Yes. Now, we talked about currently in immigration court, currently on appeal. Now we're talking about, lost immigration court, lost appeal, final order, right? You can still get PD by approaching the ICE attorney, the right person, the right office, and asking if they would be willing to reopen the case, to, restart basically the case, saying hey, you know what, let's reopen the case because maybe the client now has a child who turned 21 and can now petition for them. And the ICE attorney might be willing to do that, depending on your background and depending if you're not a priority case or not. So even if you have a removal order, PD is definitely still an option for you.
Yeah, we give out so many situations right now. So therefore, you mean that basically all the case, regardless what kind of situation, you might be able to apply for PD.
If there is an ICE attorney involved in the case, if this is a case that's within EOIR in the immigration court BIA system, yes, you can get PD because this is all about the powers of the attorneys in those cases. I talked about the very many types of PD and what you might be able to get in certain situations, but there are so many situations and so many other strategies that you might get from PD, from this new memo, from this new policy. So the best way really is to think about your case with your attorney and, ask her what the best course of action is, depending on what's going on with your case and what your situation is in life.
Or you can find a new one to consult on your case. You don't have to deal with the current one. Maybe they don't know this, and then of course we know, and then that's why we post and then give out this YouTube regarding PD.
Right. Yeah, that's why we wanted to get this episode right away, talk about it, because it just happened.
Yes, and actually our time is up, right? So feel free to leave your question to us.
Yeah, I know, this is a new thing for a lot of people, but this is something that, like Ariel said earlier, we have experience about. We've gotten PD for a lot of our clients from the interim memos before, and at the final memo, we know how to do this. So if you have questions, feel free to ask us. We are probably going to, we might have to do another episode about this, and we'll compile all of these questions and answer them in another show in the future. You can send your questions via YouTube or via line or through our email address. And as always, before I let you all go, everything that we've been talking about here, I know I'm a lawyer, but this form of communication doesn't constitute an attorney-client relationship. If you want to be represented by a lawyer, you can contact us. Other than that, this is all opinion. This is not legal advice. Please, if you need help, contact us as whenever is convenient for you.
Yes, and you guys can continue to follow us on YouTube or other channel. Thank you. See you guys next time.
Bye.